Okay, so good afternoon everyone. I'm the last speaker of the session, so not long to wait now. Before I start, I just want to I set the scene with a quote. I'll just give you a second to read over that. It's just that plans are useless and planning is essential. The reason why I've put that up here to begin with, I suppose, is I'm going to take you through how we developed our sustainability plan. And I'm also going to take you through the journey that we've had on that, the achievements we've made, the challenges we've come up against, and also the key learnings we've come across. And I hope you'll be able to take some of them back to your business. So just to take you through, our sustainability plan, we set it up in 2015. We were a founding member of Origin Green in 2012. And I suppose with the growth in the business, we decided to set up a group sustainability plan to cover both our Irish and UK operations. I'll take you through a couple of achievements to date that we've made under the 5 pillars that we set out under our sustainability plan. And these 5 areas are really just the key impacts or areas which we wanted to drive improvement through. And finally, I'll close out with a couple of key learnings and takeaways. So just to give you a quick overview, first of all, of the 5 pillars. So our sustainability plan is made up of 5 pillars, and we've also outlined 4 foundations, which I'll take you through in a minute. So just to run through these, the 5 priority areas are agriculture and animal welfare, responsible sourcing, resource efficiency, people and communities, and health and nutrition. And we've outlined also 4 ways of working, or foundations, which we have defined as behaviours that we believe we need to play on to deliver improvement under these 5 areas. And just to give you I suppose, an overview of those, they're continuous improvement, which is built on our lean background and history. Collaboration, which I think everyone here will agree that it's something that we all need to work together, that no one organisation or person has the answers to an issue as complex as sustainability. Playing on collaboration again, but a separate entity in itself, is customer and supplier partnerships. So I suppose that area is really about aligning up and downstream in the value chain so that we can amplify results. And then the final one is communication, and that's really about gearing or sharing learnings both internally and externally. So given the platform, I think the farm is the best place to start, and I apologise to anyone who was on our tour because there's going to be a little bit of repetition. But we have our own Kepak farm. It's about 10 minutes away from our head office, and it's what we call our Centre of Excellence beef finishing farm. It's finishing approximately 3,000 cattle a year. And so we use it as a knowledge transfer hub for our suppliers, and we're quite proud to say that we had 1,200 suppliers visit the farm last year. We collaborate a lot on the farm with industry partners and do a lot of research on the farm. And I suppose we try and pick issues that are relevant to our supply base so that we can trial new methods and share the learnings and disseminate it out through our knowledge transfer days. And in recent years, one of the focuses we've had was on mortality. So probably 5 or 6 years ago, the mortality rate on our farm was about 1.5%. which you might think is quite low, and it is below the industry average. But on a farm our size, that's still a loss of nearly 50 cattle a year. And just to put that in context, the loss of one animal will wipe out the profit or the margin on approximately 12 to 15 cattle. And when you overlay that with the average farm size, or the average farm in Ireland finishing approximately 20 cattle a year, it's quite a significant issue for our supply base. So to tackle this issue, we enlisted the help of our vet, Frank, on the farm, and we built a Healthy Herds programme. And under that programme, there was a list of targets and aims, but it's basically around trying to identify the main issues that were contributing to this mortality rate and to try and address them. And the 2 kind of key points that I'll just touch on that we talked about were stress management and intake procedures. And by tackling these 2 issues and taking a couple of simple steps, really, we managed to bring down our mortality rate by 80% to 0.3. Just to touch on these other 2 briefly, we've also engaged with Alltech, who are a leading animal nutrition company, to work on on-farm efficiencies with us. So through looking at our feed composition, we've improved our daily live weight gain and reduced the age of slaughter of our heifers by 13%, which is roughly 2 to 3 months. I suppose the knock-on effect of that is, for a farmer, if you can finish your cattle 2 to 3 months earlier, that's 2 to 3 months less inputs, feed that you need to put into the animal. So it's a lower cost. And then from an environmental perspective, that's obviously 2 to 3 months less that the animal is producing methane. So it's a double benefit. And then the last thing I'll just touch on is an ongoing piece of work that we're working on at the minute. We're working with an Irish biodiversity company called Air Wild to try and measure the baseline biodiversity level on Kepak Farm, and also to put together an improvement plan to build on that. Obviously, we're procuring more than livestock. So given that we've set up a responsible sourcing pillar this year, so just to give you a bit of background on the company as well, we have 15 sites, and of those, 6 have value-add capabilities. So for those 6 sites, we're procuring ingredients, meat outside our direct farm supply chain, and we're also procuring packaging for the group. So earlier this year in April, we hired a group purchasing manager, Diane Lynch, and her remit, I suppose, is to tackle this whole issue. And one of the first bodies of work that was done there was aligning all the group procurement policies, which was a significant body of work, given in the last maybe 5 years we've acquired 8 sites of the 15 that we have now. So there's quite a large alignment piece to be done there. The other piece of work that we've got over the line this year was a full profile of all our plastic packaging. So plastic is obviously very hot topic at the minute in the media, especially single-use plastics. It's a particular challenge in the meat industry that's worth calling out at this platform. While we need to reduce, where possible, the amount of single-use plastics we're using, plastic is the best form of packaging that we can use for meat in terms of food safety and in terms of preserving shelf life. So there is really a delicate balance there, and it's an area where innovation is required. And with responsible sourcing also comes responsible consumption and resource efficiency, and I suppose that's the next pillar, and probably the most familiar pillar. The first thing I'll talk about here is energy management. So, and this probably plays on our continuous improvement foundation that I mentioned earlier. We had ISO 50001 certification, but it had come to a point, I suppose, where we weren't getting the benefits out of it that we felt we should be getting out of it. And the maintenance of the system was becoming more and more tedious. So we took a position this year to revamp the entire system, rewrite our manual, rewrite our routines, rewrite our reports, with a view to making it a little bit more practical. I suppose one of the results of that then, coming into the next point on the slide, is on carbon reduction. So in 2015, we set out a target to reduce our carbon emissions by 30% across our factories, based on our 2015 baseline. I'm really happy to say we're 65% down on our 2015 baseline at this point in time, and that's partially due to our energy management improvements that have been made. Some very simple, straightforward projects that won't be of any surprise to anyone, things like LED lighting, and just educating people. And one of the big strides I think we've got across the line this year is switching to green energy in all our Irish operations, and that's something we'll look to replicate in our sites in the UK over the next year. The final thing then on resource efficiency that I'll talk about is food waste. So again, this is quite a hot topic at the minute. We had undergone a large baseline analysis of our food waste across all our sites this year. So as you'll all be aware, an abattoir and a boning hall work as a disassembly line, splitting out inedible parts from edible parts. So as a result, there isn't a significant level of food waste. Whereas when you move into the value-add space and you're putting components together and you've multiple different pieces to join in, your food waste, I suppose, it results in a higher level. So as a result of that baseline analysis that we've done this year, we've picked 2 of our value-add sites that we're going to do pilot studies over the next 12 to 18 months. And the plan, I suppose, or the objective of that is to develop a blueprint for tackling food waste in that space. One resource that's not on this slide and that comes into the next one is people. I suppose that's one of our most significant resources that we have. Currently, Kepak employs about 5,000 people across 15 sites. So that's 15 communities that we're operating in, and a lot of employees and employee families. So when we set out our sustainability programme, I suppose we wanted to build in a pillar that gave back to all those people and communities that feed into our work. And one of the key things that we wanted to do was celebrate the good things. Red meat obviously gets a lot of negative press in the media, so it's nice when you have something to celebrate to actually give it the occasion it deserves. So one of the things we've launched is a long service recognition awards programme. So basically twice a year across every site, any employee that's on their 10th, 15th, 20th, 25th year anniversary of joining the company is just recognised for that long service. The second piece then is support. So obviously for our local communities, we ad hoc, I suppose, a couple of years ago would have supported charities here and there, and we still continue to do that, but we wanted to do something with more intent, I suppose. So we developed a system or a programme whereby employees could suggest different charities that they had a matter close to their heart about, and annually then we selected a charity partner to support from the ones put forward. So this year it was Simon Community, which is a homeless charity, which is, again, I suppose, is quite topical at the moment. The last piece then under people and communities is one I've been fairly heavily involved with over the last few years, which is around development of people. And a key piece of this is our graduate programme. So I suppose our graduate programme, from my own background, I came in on it about 5 years ago. And 5, 6, 7 years ago, anyone who came in through the graduate programme, it was, I suppose, it was a more unstructured programme, whereas with the needs of graduates coming in today, they're requiring more and asking and demanding nearly more of a structured programme, more feedback, and more direction. And I know we talk a lot about consumers and how consumers are changing and how we need to communicate differently with consumers and the generational gap. But that's also happening in our employee base, and it's worth recognising in the workplace and adapting for that. The final pillar then, so is health and nutrition. So again, as I said, we've gone through a series of acquisitions, and a lot of that is in the value add space and consumer and convenience foods. So a lot of what we've done in the last kind of year to 2 years is around benchmarking and gathering information. So traffic light analysis, which is a red, amber, green scale based on salt, sugar and fat content of foods. We've looked at our portion control. We've looked at reformulating current products and existing products. And we've looked at removing allergens. So two key, I suppose, achievements to call out there are we have taken 30 tonnes of sugar out of our sauces, and as well as that, we've 2 value-add sites now that are operating gluten-free. And just the final point to mention then, I suppose, the first 2 are more outward-facing towards our consumers, but we obviously want to look after the health and nutrition of our staff. So we've done a lot of work over the last 6 months on trying to kind of improve the offerings that are in our canteens. So that's just a quick whistle-stop overview of our 5 pillars. I'll just give you a few key learnings before I close out. So the first is target. We found, I suppose, in setting targets that it helps to set realistic targets that have a little bit of a stretch. If a target is too out there, too unachievable, it won't motivate people. If it's too soft or too easy, it won't motivate people. So it's about finding, I suppose, that sweet spot in the middle that'll give you that direction. The second piece is prioritise. When we started back in 2015, I think we had a project portfolio of in and around 100 projects. And while our intentions were good and we wanted to get them all over the line, we didn't have the resources. So it was just, I suppose the prioritise piece is really about picking what matters and going after that and resourcing it properly, which again feeds into number 3, which is teamwork. A lot of our projects were cross-functional, they were across sites or they were across divisions, and there would have been people working together who had never met in person, working over the phone, or who didn't really have a relationship. So it was just about picking the right people and getting them engaged in the process. And that also means getting external people involved as well, and partnering with experts. The fourth is adapt. So again, this probably comes back to the quote I mentioned at the start. we set our direction, we put the priorities in place, we put the team in place. But the plan that's set out on day one is often not the plan that gets you to your end goal. So it's about having the awareness, I suppose, of where you are versus your goals and whether or not you're moving in the right direction. And the final one, again, which I've already mentioned, is celebrate. So when things go well and goals are hit or targets are hit, it's always good to celebrate that and share that internally and externally. So just before I finish up, as I started with a quote, I'll finish with, well, I'm not sure if it's quite a quote, but I'll let you have a look for yourselves. Thanks a million.